Thank you, Amr. It isn't the same as it was last year, and it leads us over, I think, easily to Turkey Ben Faisal. In a year from now, Saudi Arabia will probably not be where Egypt is today. And when Amr Moussa spoke about 5 years since the whole Arab world will be changed, I wonder, Turkey Ben Faisal, what do you think about it? Saudi Arabia certainly was not immune. It took a lot of money into its hands these years in order to deal with social and political grievances. Where is Saudi Arabia going?
Let me start by saying that I agree with Amr Moussa that the change that has taken place in the past year in the Arab world affects all Arab countries. No one can deny that. But I also would like to point out, and as he has said, and as was said before by many commentators, that change will take place in different countries according to those countries' own personal dynamics and parameters of existence, history, and background. The Arabian Peninsula differed from North Africa, particularly Egypt, I would say, in the sense that it was never, before the 20th century, a land of a nation, as Egypt was, and as demonstrably, and I think even historically speaking, Iraq was, or perhaps even what was called Sham, Syria, was. So it was a collection of tribes and regional emirates that, in more cases than one, generally fought each other over water resources and the availability of grazing lands, etc., mostly as an appendage to a stronger, if you like, imperial power existing outside the Arabian Peninsula. And this is from time immemorial. So political unity and nationhood in the peninsula began in the 20th century. And people still, including myself, remember the poverty and the difficult lives that we had to live before that political unity succeeded. And therefore, we give more value, if you like, to stability and to safeguarding the links and liens that brought together the political establishment of countries in the peninsula. And therefore, you say that Saudi Arabia, will it be the same next year? And indeed not. It is not the same today that it was yesterday or even the year before. And political, social, and economic reform since, let's say, the establishment of Saudi Arabia in 1932 has been the rule of the day rather than the exception. The very creation of the Saudi state in 1932 was an expression of political reform, bringing together what I mentioned before, the tribal and regional actors into one political unity. And the development of the state and the institutions in that political entity have taken place over the past years. And so political reform has been an ongoing process. And it has not been a process, if you like, of great social disharmony or dispute, either between the ruler or the ruled, but rather it was undertaken on a horizontal level, but equally on a vertical level. And the vanguard of reformers, if you like, in the kingdom have been the political leadership that was foresaw the difficulties of maintaining national unity and social cohesion, and the challenges posed not just by developments in neighboring countries, whether in Egypt or in other places, but also the other challenges that have been a major source of activity in the kingdom. the challenges of eradication of disease, for example. One of my elder brothers suffered from diphtheria when he was a young boy. Others in the community suffered from smallpox and other diseases that literally wiped out whole communities in my lifetime. That was a big challenge, the challenge of education. When I went to school in the early 50s in Saudi Arabia, you could count the number of schools on your fingertips. The level of literacy, whether among men or women, in those years literacy was in the smallest figures, less than 10%. That was a big challenge for us to overcome. The challenge of poverty. When I was growing up, poverty, the whole country was poor. The king, the late King Abdulaziz, in order to meet the requirements of governing in Saudi Arabia, literally borrowed money from the merchants. Of course, in those days we didn't have even banks. That was another challenge. All of these challenges affected us and continue to affect us. The next generation will have less of an understanding, or perhaps even less of a tolerance for what we had to go through when I was growing up. And this is another challenge that hopefully we can meet in providing them not just with the framework for reform and participatory government and justice and equal opportunity that they deserve, but also not to expect from them that they will look on the world as we looked on that world. That challenge, I think, will have to wait and see. But the kingdom is not going to be the same next year as it was this year. In September, King Abdullah, for example, introduced a decree where the suffrage in our electoral system was expanded to include women, not as simply as voting rights, but also to be represented in our electoral system, and also participation in the Majlis al-Shura, the council of the consultative council in the kingdom. Just that step makes the kingdom different today than it was before that decision was made. So all of these changes that are taking place in the kingdom, as I said, they're taking place on a horizontal level, but also on a vertical level. And one thing I can say about the kingdom's approach to meeting these challenges of development and human rights and freedom and all of the aspirations that people around the world share together, and the values that Monsieur de Montbrial was talking about earlier, all of these challenges have to be met by reform, because reform is no longer a choice for us. Reform is an imperative. And for us to be able to meet these challenges of providing justice and livelihood and equal opportunity for all is an opportunity as well as a challenge.